Right, so we're going to get started. As I said, I've got George here today, who is a hot topic on this. So he's going to go through some of the more specifics. Please pay attention, because if you don't, you'll get lost. But you can always try and watch the recording back after. But it is really, really useful. Lots of tips in here in terms of how to make sure you're looking at the right goals and looking at how SEO can be successful for your business. Next slide, please, George. So the schedule today is we're going to look at what is SEO outcome prediction. So why are we predicting the success of SEO, and why is forecasting SEO hard? Because it is. And why do you want to predict the traffic that you could get from organic? And by organic and SEO, we use those words quite interchangeably, but basically they just mean the traffic that you don't pay for from search engines. And then how you can actually predict your success of the search engine optimization work, some examples of this, and then how sort of setting goals for SEO is important, and how you can work with your Nettle SEO team on that. And then also how you track your return on investment. As a business owner, I know that you are always going to be tracking the return on every bit of money that you spend on marketing, whether that's SEO, direct mail, posters, printed activity. You always want to track the success of that work and see if it's providing a return for you. And the good thing about SEO is you absolutely can track this, unlike some sort of more traditional channels. But obviously it works to have a few different channels working for you. But we want to show you today how you can measure the return on your search engine optimization activity. So now I'm just going to go on mute again and not talk, and I'll hand over to George, who will go through the SEO outcome prediction part of the session today. Over to you, George.
Thanks, Liv. Hi, everyone. I'm George. Hope everyone's well. So I'm going to go through this SEO outcome prediction with you. So first of all, what is SEO outcome prediction? And it's basically accurately forecasting the financial value of your SEO, or in other words, what impact will your SEO activity have on revenue and return on investment. So the same with any of your marketing channels, whether you're also doing PPC or traditional, you always want to work out, is the money I'm spending giving me a positive return on investment? And notoriously, that's quite difficult with SEO, but it's still very important. So we'll just look at why that's difficult. And Liv touched on this, but it's being asked to predict not only a constantly evolving algorithm from the search engines, but also changes to market demand, as well as the impact of not just your own efforts, but competitors. So if you're spending X amount on SEO and you're putting in X amount of hours, you could have a competitor that's got 2 or 3 times the resources as you. So you're battling not just this algorithm, but also your own efforts and competitors. And in terms of the algorithm, it's very complex and it's largely unknown how it all works. It's a very closely guarded secret, which makes predicting SEO quite a challenge compared to channels like PPC, but it's not impossible, and it's still essential that you do this for your business. So if it's difficult, why would we try and predict your SEO? The first is to manage your business expectations and your expectations. You want to understand that if we start SEO today, you're not going to have 10,000 new clients by Saturday. So you need to understand what's possible within your SEO. It's really useful to help you plan your budgets, not just within SEO, but your entire marketing budget and where SEO fits within that. And really importantly, and what we'll touch on a lot here, is that to understand your return on investment. As I said, every marketing channel, you need to know what type of return you're getting. Is it working? Where can you improve it? And how you can get the maximum ROI. And I think it's really important that no matter what your budget is, you can still predict some kind of outcome and use that to measure against your success. I think this is really important, is that you target your revenue and your leads, not just traffic increases. So just because you're getting 10 or 1,000 more visits per month, that might not equal revenue and leads. So I think it's really important as a business to tie everything back to revenue or leads so that you understand the actual impact of these efforts, and to be realistic, because it's a long game, SEO, and so we need to factor in what's actually possible within your industry, within the sort of power of your website, and against your competitors. So now we're going to look at how to predict SEO, and we've got a few steps of how we do that, or how your SEO manager would do that. I'm not expecting everyone to be able to go away and implement these steps themselves, because some of them require tools and experience in doing so. But I think it's good to give you an overview of how your SEO manager and account manager would go about this, so that you understand the process. So on the basics level, it's 2 steps. We're projecting out your website traffic, and then we're relating that website traffic back to either your revenue, if you're something like an e-commerce business, or your leads, if you're a more traditional business that uses leads. So step 1 is, and we're going to hopefully be able to share some sort of Google Sheet documents with you and templates that you can use with your own business on this. So fairly simply, if you can see my cursor, we plot out the current website traffic that you're getting from Google, and we plot that out across maybe the past year would be a good range to do, which you can get from your Google Analytics or your Search Console if you've got this, and you get your SEO managers to help you with that. So we plot out each month how much traffic we're getting, and then we use that to calculate what the percentage increase or decrease is on the previous month, and that gives us an average rate of growth. So we can use that average rate of growth to plot out how the next 6 to 12 months look if we were to carry on working as we are now. That gives you a really nice baseline that you can measure your success from, because you know if you then get results above this red line, that's your increase in growth, and then you can see how successful a campaign's been. And this is very simple to work out. It's just inputting your monthly traffic, and then the calculators work out what your percentage change would be. So it's a fairly straightforward graph, but that gives you somewhere to start from. The next step, which does require some tools, so again, not expecting people to necessarily go away and do this, but what we would do is we would map out your keywords, the things that you currently show up in Google for. So if someone's searching for terms related to your business, and we use tools to work out how many clicks those search terms are getting. So how many people are searching for something and then clicking through to the website. And it's really important, because we know that we then use these clicks to work out how many customers you might be able to convert and how much that conversion might be worth to you. So we would identify really relevant keywords for your business, remove anything that's out of reach. So possibly it's something that's really competitive and there's people in your industry that are just dominating that query, so you wouldn't be able to target it, and see what's going to work for you and how much clicks we can get for that. The next step would be to calculate if we could show up in Google for those terms, those search queries, how much potential traffic could we get. So there's, if you understand that the higher up in Google you show, the more clicks you're likely to get. So if you were #1 for plumbers, Bristol, then you could anticipate to get 28.5% of the clicks for that term. So if you see this example I've done here, which the keyword is buy euros, that gets 16,000 people a month searching and clicking for that term, which means if you were #1 in Google for that term, you could expect to get around 4,500 clicks. And this is really useful information because we can tie this back to expected revenue based on how much your average conversion rate is and how much your average profit margin is. Once we have that kind of data and we've got your baseline, we've got your potential traffic if you were to target these new keywords and show up in Google for them and the amount of traffic that would bring you, we work out what's a realistic impact that we could have within your SEO. And we look at things like how competitive is the industry and how strong is your domain. By that I mean how sort of trusted it is, how many good links are going to it. Your budget, what's a realistic within the budget, how much time and resource do we have, how much content resource you might have. Are you able to produce 1 article a month or 20 articles a month? As long as that's sort of what the SEO will be doing, but there's also internal activity. So as the business manager, are you collecting reviews? Are you producing your own content? How are you helping your internal activity? And then, of course, things like seasonality and global pandemics. If you're a Christmas business, you want to plan for that. You can't be expecting huge growth in January. If you're a summer business, you can't be expecting huge growth in around this time of year. And once you've worked out what you think your efforts will result in, the final thing to do is to calculate your SEO revenue. And that is different by each industries, but for example, e-commerce, which is a fairly straightforward model, your revenue is the traffic times your average conversion rate times your average revenue margin. We've got some examples on the next couple of slides. If that's a local business where you're doing lead generation, perhaps, you would have your traffic, the conversion rate of those leads, and then the average lead value. And I'll just go through hopefully a fairly, managing your expectations. Obviously, this is very key. Once you've planned out all your work, you need to understand that SEO is a long-term strategy that can take months to start working. And that's something you need to be aware of, and you need to put that kind of longer term mentality in place. Have a really clear and open communication with your team, with your business, with your SEO manager, and to understand that if your website's brand new, it will take a while to build up authority. So something that's good to do here is maybe run some PPC whilst you're building up your SEO, and then you get kind of additional learnings from doing both of those. So here I'll go through an example of how this might look if we were to take a keyword or something that people are searching for that your website doesn't show up for at the minute, and we started showing up in Google on the first page, how many more clicks our website could get, the conversion of that, and then the additional profit we might be able to get. And then we can use that to project out and work out our ROI. So for this term by euros, which I used before, there's 16,000 people searching and clicking for that term each month in the UK. So we see here that if we got our website to position 4 in Google for that term, we could be looking at an additional 1,200 visits a month. And let's say our conversion rate for those customers is 5% and our profit's £8. That's an additional £500 per month profit. And again, if we climbed up the rankings within Google when we were number 1, it could be an extra £1,800 in monthly profit. And if you're then spending £500, £600 a month on SEO, you can see how that relates to your return on investment. This is for quite a simply model for one keyword, but you could also use it to project out for multiple pages across your website. So maybe you offer multiple services and you were planning out if you could improve all of those service pages and get more traffic to all of them. And then you can predict how much your gains would be. So here I've got the graph from the earlier slide where you've got your current traffic in blue. We've mapped out our predicted baseline in red, so if we were to carry on working as normal. And then the yellow line is what we would achieve if we start implementing the SEO strategy that we've designed, how much more traffic we can get, and then obviously, of course, how that traffic relates to conversion and revenue. And this is another approach which is probably easier to run through, and it's a good one because it means you can sort of sample and scale up. So for this activity, what we would do is take a sample of similar blog articles or similar pages on your website. So maybe you've got ones that are very similar but for each location, or they're all on the same topic. We calculate the current growth rate for this as we did before with the blue line and the red line. And then we would optimize a small portion of these pages. Maybe you take 10 or 20 pages. We'd make changes to them. We'd wait a few weeks, several weeks, and then we'd measure the results. And we'd look at those results against our baseline and against the pages that we didn't optimize. And then we can see that, okay, the sample set that we did our SEO on have improved by 30%. The baseline have improved by 5%. So we can say, okay, that's great. We can then predict that if we roll this out across all of our pages, we can predict a 25-30% growth. So that's something really good you can do on a much smaller scale. And now I will pass back over to Liv, who will talk to you more about goal setting. I hope that was helpful. Any questions, we'll be able to answer them after this. Thank you.
Thanks, George. I hope that was useful and not too technical. It's definitely, if you can look back at the recording, it's definitely something you could try and implement in order to show the success of your SEO work, or ask the studio manager to have a look at it for you. So how does goal setting relate to forecasting and outcome prediction? If you are looking to invest in SEO, or if you already have a package with us, you will want goals. There'll be goals as to why you're paying for SEO. You're not just paying to have a website, you want that website to do something for your business. Next slide, please, George. Thank you. So how to set goals. I mean, I don't want to tell you something that you already know. Everyone knows how to set goals. But really with SEO, it's similar to general business goals or life goals, about those SMART kind of goals. So it's about setting the goals that are your business goals, not just search engine optimization goals. So if you have a goal to grow your business from X size to this size by next year, then that is your business goal, and you need to work backwards from that and see how search engine optimization fits into that goal, or any other marketing channels. So there's so many marketing channels out there that you could be investing in and trying. There's too many for you to just invest in all of them. But if you're choosing to invest in SEO, you need to relate that back to the business goals and not just look at vanity metrics. And be realistic about those goals. So obviously we spoke about how SEO can take time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And if you want to invest in SEO, I'm not saying that you won't see quick results, because that is quite possible. If you have a website that has a lot of technical errors or a lot of things that can be fixed quite quickly and quick wins, then you may see quite quick results. But if it's a brand new website and the domain hasn't built up any authority yet, it's going to take time. And also, if you're in a competitive industry, it might take time. If you have particular keywords that have quite high search volume and are competitive, it might take time. So it's based on setting realistic goals that you feel you can achieve, so that you're not going to be disheartened or feel like SEO isn't successful for you. So it's really important to set those goals from the off and from the start, so that you know if the work is successful, and to make sure you have reporting in place, or you speak to, if you're on one of the enterprise packages and you have an account manager, that you have a relationship with them where you can understand the success of your SEO and have some reporting in place. And also set goals based on historic data. So where George just went through the forecasting, historic data is it's invaluable, really. You need to look at the data on your website. If you don't already have anything set up to track success on your website, you absolutely should. So if you don't already, I would recommend going away today and setting up Google Analytics and Google Search Console, because a lot of businesses just have a website because they nowadays, but actually there's a lot of success in having a website, and you also there's costs associated with having a website, like your hosting and things like that. So you want to make sure that you're setting goals and you're looking at the success of your website and tracking it, and how much traffic you're getting and where that traffic is coming from. So if it's coming from organic, or if it's coming from your Facebook page, for example. And then, as I've mentioned before, SEO, it doesn't happen overnight, but it can be really successful when it is working well for you, because unlike other marketing channels, you don't have to pay every time someone comes to your website with search engine optimization, because once your website is optimized, you will get that traffic if you're ranking well. But it does require constant investment, because things are always changing. So you can't get to position 3 and then suddenly say, I don't need to invest in SEO anymore, because that will change. Then using measurable goals. So those goals need to be tangible. So they need to be like metrics. So how many leads or how many inquiries do you want from SEO? And we can work backwards from that. I've got an example in a minute, but if you understand the value of a customer to you, then you can understand and you can set measurable goals. So is a customer, looking at customer lifetime value, for example, if someone buys a product from you or a service or comes to your business, will they come again? Do they then become a valuable customer that's going to keep returning, or do they just buy once? What is the value of one customer to you, or one inquiry? How many people convert when they go on your website? And avoiding those vanity metrics. So I'm just going to talk about the vanity metrics on the next slide, but they are useful in some respects with SEO. Next slide, please, George. It's the next slide where I'll talk about vanity metrics, but I'll just talk about secondary goals first, high-level goals. So your high-level goals that you should be setting are your leads, so inquiries and forms and calls, anything that people use to get in contact with you using your website or your online presence, online search engine presence. So for example, you would have seen, you've probably got one of these Google listings where it has your website or directions or a telephone number. You can track the success of all of these, and you should be tracking the success, because these are here as a result of search engine efforts, and optimizing your Google local listing is search engine optimization, and you need to be reporting on the success of that, because often people think that it's just people filling in a form on the website, which is SEO. But if people are calling you from this search engine result because there's a telephone number there, then they found you as a result of searching on Google and organically seeing your result and then phoning you straight away. So actually that is SEO success. So you want to just make sure that SEO is being recorded correctly and the right goals are being set up and the right things are being reported on, so that you understand the success of it. Revenue, profit, for example, return on investment. So you'll probably have a sort of way that you measure success of all your different marketing channels. If you are investing in different things, how can you measure the return on investment from SEO? The standard sort of formula for measuring that, and then also, benchmarking it against your other channels. So I often see people say, well, I don't feel like SEO is working for me. But then when you ask to look at their other marketing channels and how much they're spending on something else, I say, well, what are you getting from that? And they're like, oh, I don't really know, or it's a lot less, or they're spending more but not seeing as much. I think often because people don't understand SEO that well, they don't think it's successful. But it's a really valuable channel, because once you're investing in it and once you start seeing results, those results will drive traffic to your website or drive calls to you, which are free essentially. They're not free because you're spending money on SEO, but you're not paying every time. You're not paying for an advert in the local magazine, because actually you've invested and you've got a good ranking on Google. Next slide, please. These are the secondary goals, which are the vanity metrics I was talking about. So when we talk about search engine optimization, everyone looks at rankings, which is fine because that is what it's about. You want to rank #1 in Google search in order to get traffic, because that's what we just spoke about in terms of forecasting your traffic. But actually, what's the point in having all that traffic if no one is inquiring and no one's actually coming to your business or inquiring about your services? That is pointless. So the way we like to report on SEO success is looking at the bottom line, so looking at those commercial metrics like your revenue. But these secondary goals, like how much ownership do you have of the search engine, or your traffic, or how many reviews you have, or your page speed score, you might get a review through from other businesses, an audit that says you've got a low page speed score or a low health score. All of this is important to SEO, and it's SEO ranking metrics, but these aren't the metrics that you should be detailing success on. It should be how many leads and the revenue that you're getting, because these are just metrics that we at Netto SEO will look to improve in order to drive more money for you. Next slide, please. And return on investment. So next slide, please. So looking at your return on investment, so you need to I feel like I'm going around in circles here, repeating myself, but it is really important to track your SEO success against your business forecasts and goals. So if you set a forecast for 2021 for your business, set that forecast against SEO. So how much of your revenue or your sales that you want in 2021 should come from organic search, and then work backwards from that. And don't focus on rankings. Obviously, I know you will look every day at what your position is on Google, but try and move that towards looking at and understanding how many inquiries you're getting from Google or Bing or whichever search engine you're focusing on. And just understanding and appreciating that it won't happen overnight. If you really do want leads straight away, like tomorrow, and you're investing in SEO today, then you probably want to have a look at potentially adding AdWords onto your package if you have an SEO package, or doing additional activity that will bring in leads, and making sure that you can give that time to SEO to be successful. And SEO requires continuously changing and improving and adjusting on what you're doing. As we said, there's an algorithm behind where you rank on Google and how many people come to your website, and that is changing sort of every day, for example. So you can't stay still with SEO. You have to be continuously optimizing, updating your website, creating quality content to show Google that you're an authority. And then also compare your leads or calls against your spend on SEO. Really simple example here, but say you had a package which was £300 that's meant to be £500, but say you had a £500 package and you got 50 inquiries in December and you spent £500, if 15 of those inquiries actually led to a sale, and that sale value of those 15 inquiries was £5,000, then you've essentially made, and I know this isn't profit, but your revenue, taking away what you spent on SEO is 4,500, and then obviously work backwards from there for your fixed business costs and everything that you have to pay out for, and how successful SEO is for you. But always be looking at essentially what you're spending and the revenue coming in from that channel, and then you'll really then start to benchmark each of what you're spending your marketing on and where you should be spending your money. And next slide, please. So just to recap here, forecasting helps manage your expectations. So if you want your Netto SEO manager to look at some sort of forecast for you or help you understand return on investment, please ask. It's not easy, so you probably won't get the world, but you can get some sort of forecast to help understand where you might be in the next 3, 6, 9 or 12 months. And please be focused on leads and revenue, or whatever metric you see as, whatever reason you're doing SEO, focus on that metric, not rankings and other vanity metrics. And make sure you set measurable, realistic goals that are based on your overall business goals. So don't set goals that are completely irrelevant to what you're actually trying to achieve as a business, because that won't make sense. And then also use the secondary goals to track your success. You don't necessarily need to look at those, but if you want to, they might help you understand why the work that is being done is successful. So has your page speed score improved from this to this? And then as a result of that, are more people staying on your website and inquiring because you don't have a slow site, for example? And then always report your SEO success against your business forecasts and your business goals. So essentially, just to, I suppose, round up on this session, what we're trying to say here is search engine optimization it's difficult, it's complex, but you can absolutely try and forecast the success of it, and you can also forecast based on what you've seen. And as long as you set goals and as long as you set your expectations, you'll see success from investing in SEO. I think that's it for today. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or come off mute and just ask them, and we can go through them. Otherwise, we'll give it a couple of minutes just to see if anyone has any questions. Probably too scared to ask because it's a bit complex. Chris, you look like you want to ask a question. No? Thanks. Who's that?
Hi, Tim from Stone Health. Just asking, do you get involved, obviously, in writing a lot of the programs with the website, or the way that everything runs, and make sure you don't miss out on any clicks?
What do you mean in terms of? I'm not sure what you mean. Can you just repeat the question?
I get it seen as like it's the bots inside the website. So, you know, if you apparently getting a download is a really good thing if you can get people to trust to have a download. But a lot of time websites are built without having any sort of metrics that kind of make it all work. So you might go to YouTube and lose that click that people have gone over to there from.
Yep, so what you can do there is you can pretty much anything on your website. So if you have videos on YouTube that you're taking people to from your website, and that is your measure of success, so you want people to go to YouTube to watch a video, you can track that. So there's something called Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics, both Google products that you can basically tag up anything on the website, so a button that takes people to YouTube to track the success on that. And then in terms of like bots and crawling, that's not something we necessarily do. That's obviously a Google thing. So if Google, we help with Google being able to crawl the website and search engines being able to crawl the website and see what content you've got on your website. If you have, I'm not sure quite if this is answering your question, but if you have different types of content on your website, that can be seen as positive, but mainly it can be positive because if you have like a video or something for people to download, it might be useful for users or useful for your customers. So there is benefit to having different types of content as well as like the written content on your website, for search engine spiders, but mainly for people to see that. And you can track anything on the website. I'm not quite sure if that answers your question, but if not, just email us or put a question on Basecamp or to Nettle and we will pick it up.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? So as we said, we are going to try and send through a sort of Google Sheets where you can try and predict the success of SEO. So whether you're a new customer or your existing customer or you're looking to potentially invest in SEO, if you want this, we can try and have a look at doing it for you to forecast. But obviously it's really important to reforecast because you don't always, the forecast, we didn't know there was going to be a pandemic this year. So the amount of businesses that have probably forecasted their success this year and has probably gone downhill. Or there may be others that have done really well. I think we've got another question. There is an e-commerce club in Stirling monthly, which I run, and you are all welcome to attend. Is it okay to share, please, Nettle? I'm sure it is okay to share. Share it however you like. I'm not sure the best channel to share it, whether you can share it on here, but I'm sure that would be useful. Right, I think that's everything. If you have any questions, please get in touch. The next session is on PPC, which we have touched on a bit today. So we mainly do these on SEO, but PPC is also a useful channel. And as we've said, you might want to do PPC alongside SEO. So if you do want to come to that session, please do sign up. It's on the, not next Thursday, so 17th of December if you want to come to that one. Same time, same place on Zoom. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
See you
everyone.
later. Bye.
Bye.